think you're someone who compares yourself to other people a lot? Most people would probably say no. But what if comparison isn't something that only happens during big moments? What if it quietly shows up in much smaller moments? Moments you don't even notice. Let's find out. I'm going to give you a few everyday situations. Don't overthink them. Just notice your first reaction. You ordered spaghetti. Your best friend ordered a steak. The moment you see their food, what's your first reaction? You had your usual drink. Then, your friend got something that looked amazing. Have you ever felt your drink suddenly seem less exciting? When shopping with a friend, do you sometimes wait to see what they choose before deciding what to buy? You were having a perfectly normal day. Then you opened social media and saw someone traveling, eating somewhere nice, or doing something fun. Does your own day suddenly feel a little less interesting? You bought a notebook you really liked. The next day, your friend bought a different one. Suddenly, which thought comes first? Has someone ever made you question a choice that you were perfectly happy with just a few seconds earlier? Have you ever said, anything is fine, even though you already knew what you wanted? So where did you end up? If you scored 0, that's wonderful. It probably means those little moments don't affect you very much. If you scored more than 1 point, don't worry. This isn't about being right or wrong. It simply means today's reflection might be especially meaningful for you. So, let's keep going. Did you notice something? None of those situations was life-changing. Nobody was competing with you. Nobody told you your choice was wrong. And yet, many of us still started questioning our own choice. Why do you think that happens? This isn't really about food, or clothes, or coffee. Those are only the situations where something deeper shows up. There was something they all had in common. Before someone else's choice appeared, you were perfectly okay with yours. Then, almost without noticing, your attention shifted. Not because your choice suddenly became worse, but because someone else chose differently. Sometimes, comparison doesn't begin with wanting what someone else has. Sometimes, it begins the moment we stop looking at our own choices and start looking at theirs. Instead of asking, do I still like what I picked? We begin asking, is theirs better? And that's a very different question. Let me ask you something. If nobody else's choice was visible, would you still have been happy with yours? Interestingly, psychologists have observed something similar. Our brains naturally pay more attention to what we don't have than to what we already have. So when someone else's choice appears, our attention immediately shifts toward everything that's good about theirs while forgetting all the reasons we chose ours in the first place. Another reason is something close to the fear of missing out. Even in everyday situations, our minds quietly ask, what if I made the wrong choice? Not because the other option is objectively better, but because we don't want to miss the best possible experience. Maybe that's why someone else's meal suddenly looks more delicious and appealing than our own, even though yours looked good just a minute ago. Your choice didn't change. Your attention did. But let me ask you something. If your friend had ordered the exact same food as you, would your food suddenly taste better? Probably not. So maybe the food was never the problem. I think the bigger problem isn't the comparison itself. It's what comparison slowly teaches us how easily we leave ourselves. Imagine someone who rarely trusted her own choices. At first, it was only the little things. She would make a decision. Then someone close to her would make a different one. Almost immediately, she would wonder if theirs was the better choice. She would quietly regret her own decision, even though she had been perfectly happy with it just moments before. It happened so often that she stopped trusting her first instinct. Before making a decision, she would look around first. What is everyone else choosing? What would you choose? She wasn't looking for advice anymore. She was looking for reassurance. Every decision felt easier as long as someone else chose first. Little by little, she became someone who always listened to everyone else before listening to herself. One day, someone asked her a simple question. What do you actually like? She smiled, but couldn't answer. Not because she didn't have preferences, but because she had spent so much time following everyone else's preferences that she had forgotten how to hear her own. Sometimes we don't lose ourselves all at once. Sometimes it happens one tiny comparison at a time. Of course, sometimes other people's choices really are better. There's nothing wrong with admitting and appreciating that. But appreciating someone else's choice doesn't require rejecting your own. You can think, that looks really good, without immediately thinking, I chose the wrong thing. Maybe we don't need to convince ourselves that our choice is always the best. Maybe we simply need to remember that it was our choice. And that's enough. The next time you make a small decision before looking around to see what everyone else picked, pause for just a second. Ask yourself, am I still happy with my choice? If the answer is yes, perhaps that's the only opinion that really matters, because the goal isn't to make the perfect choice every time. It's to slowly build trust in the choices you make. Maybe the goal isn't to stop comparing completely. Maybe it's to gently bring your attention back to yourself, because the choices you made a few seconds ago were yours for a reason. So now I'm curious, which situation felt the most familiar to you? Was there a moment when you realized, I actually do that? Or are you someone who usually sticks with your own choice? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.